Welcome back. So in this lecture, we are going to talk about the login flow implementation. So what I'm going to do, I'll create a separate project for that so that register and login flow should be in the separate project and I will attach these sources in the corresponding lectures. Okay, so let me simply copy this whole project. Not from here, I'll go back here. I'll go in the document and go in the where I'm developing this. I simply copy this, Control C and Control V, and I will ask him to change. So this will be login one. Okay, and now what I'll do here, I'll simply go in project, open, and I'll select my development environment where this one I will select login. I'll open this. Yeah, this window only. Terminate. Okay, so I'm having now login flow. Okay, everything same, just I have changed the, just I duplicate it just to keep the things separate, right? Okay, so what I'm going to do now, first I have to create one request where I can put my login ID and password. So I will simply create one class in the request package. So Java class, it will be login req. So this will having private string email, private string password, right? And I'll simply add the Lombok data and I'll add the getter and setter. So I mean data will do that. Some constructor I can add, right? No argument constructor I will add and add builder. So I have all argument constructor. I'll simply import it and I'll add the builder one. So this is the duplicate one, so let me remove that. So I have added all the required constructor. So my login request is ready now. Now I'll go in my controller, in auth control, I will create one more post mapping. I'll just simply copy it and I'll paste it. I'll say login. I'm just doing the shortcut. It's a practical way how normally people used to do. I will make sure I have to see some login response. So I'll go in the response first because I have to change that, right? It's sorry. I'll go here. I will simply create one class login response, and for the time being, I just want to return a message. Okay, string response. And again this will be having the same thing that we are having in auth response. I simply copy from here, sorry, it was not copied, so I'll simply copy it this and put on the login response, right? So you may ask like why you are keeping the separate response, login response and auth response, though it is just containing the same kind of message. So I'm doing that because I have to extend this login response with some token validation. I'll generate some JWT tokens. I'll talk about this. That's why I'm keeping this the login response separately. So don't worry about that. It will be useful. Okay. Okay. So now I'll copy this class and I'll go in the auth controller again. I'll simply change this because I want data in the different format now, and I'll simply give you login request, right? And I'll simply change this login request. Now I have to login. I have to create one method that is login that will be taking this object, and I will simply create this method in the here. Okay, so this will be returning as a string, Right now it will return the not string, my login response actually. Okay, so I will simply, remember in the flow I told you, first I am going to create one authentication object, right? Then I will pass that object to the authentication manager, and it's responsibility of authentication manager to find out the correct or appropriate authentication provider, right? So let me do that. So simply I create one authentication provider. I'm going to talk about username password authentication token. I'll create the object of this. Okay, and let me, it's a big one, so I will pass now login request dot get email comma login request dot get password, right? So I have created the authentication object token. Now I'll pass this object to the authentication manager. So before that I have to define the authentication manager here. So private authentication I have to define here authentication manager, not this one, private authentication manager, and I'll give the object of this, and I'll simply going to use this. Now what I'll do this, I'll copy this and right here there will be a method in that authenticate. If you remember the flow, dot authenticate, what I have to pass in this, I have to pass this token object. I'll simply copy this and I'll paste here. Now so now it's manager responsibility to authenticate if this user is invalid or not found. So what this will do, it will throw some error, right? So let me first, if it is correct, then I will simply, I have to return this object. So I'll copy this and paste here, and now it should be login response now dot builder message dot, I have response one, so user logged in. Okay, so and one more thing I have to do, I have to auto wire that, otherwise it may give some exception to you. All right, so I think we can run that. So let's run one for one time. Let's see how it is behaving. So it should not work, I think, because I have passed the information, but this authentication manager is not activated because it's not available in the configuration. So first let me go and create a bean for that. So I'll move once again, I'll create one bean. So let me write that. I'll simply copy this. No, some mistake while pasting, I'm not sure why it is happening. So I have created one bean for the authentication manager. Now it is available. Apart from that, password encoder is there. Now I have to choose which filter is going to authenticate my user, right? So what will I do now, I'll again create one more bean for my authentication implementation. So since I'm passing the username and password, so and I'm validating from the database, so I need DAO authentication filter, right? And before that I have to create my DAO method also to validate that, right? So let me create that one first. So this already we have done this, so we don't need to copy that now. So this detail service will be from the Spring Security itself, and this repository belonging to our repository, so I'll simply auto add that private. My repository name is user repository, and simply I will create the object of this and simply auto add that. I simply change this. I am just pasting this code just to keep the time shorter, right? It may take some, in typing maybe it may take some time, which is not useful. So what I'm written here, if that username or email is present, okay, so if it is present then return the data, otherwise throw the exception, right? So it's fine. As throw is if you are using the Java 8 or 11, so you'll find this kind of code. So it's a lambda one. Now I'll create my DAO authentication instance. So I'll simply copy and paste here the code. I already have created this code actually. So authentication manager, I am going to use DAO authentication provider. From the Spring Security, this user detail service method is already there, so I have just set that and set password encoder, which is already have defined on the top. So it will do now the things automatically for me. So let's see what else is missed. So till now I don't think any major changes required in this config file. So now we are almost done in the coding for the login flow. So let's see in the next lecture how to run that. Until then, bye.